What's up, guys? Welcome to the podcast, guys, with Rob and Nando. We are going to get into another episode today, but before we do so, make sure you get us on the road to 1,000 subscribers. We are on the road to 1,000. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification button, comment below, like the video, and share the video who you think may need to watch our video. So for today's topic, we are going to get into the effects of financial issues on relationships. So what about money is important in a relationship? How much is money important in a relationship?
I remember having a conversation with a woman about dating, and she stopped me and goes, "Do you know what women are looking for? Like, what's the main thing they're looking for out of a relationship from a man?" And I was like, "What is it?" And she said, "Security. A woman wants to feel secure in a relationship. That's the one like non-negotiable thing. If a woman doesn't feel secure with you, she's not going to date you." Okay. And financial security is going to play probably the biggest role in that, because if you're broke or you're living paycheck to paycheck or you're buried in debt, that's not going to work. Financial security as an adult is the number one most important thing to have. So this is going to be a really good topic to talk about today, because, you know, we often talk about like divorces and breakups and, you know, different types of things that could go wrong in a relationship. Financial security is a must.
So what are some common issues with financial stress, financial difficulties?
Well, you know, you have to keep in mind, if you're financially struggling, you're not going to be a happy, confident person, right? To successfully date nowadays, you have to be confident. You have to be financially secure. And if you're a broke guy, what's going to happen is you're going to have low confidence. Chances are you're going to probably isolate yourself. You're going to stay in the house. You know, you're not going to socialize, and you're going to really struggle, and that could really throw you into a negative headspace, and it's gonna overall affect your life. I would say for men especially, finances is the number one priority.
I mean, yeah, you have to have money, because at the end of the day, if you want to maintain a relationship, a woman is going to look at you and be like, okay, can this guy take care of me? Does he have enough money to take care of me? Does he have a good job to take care of me for the long term? So that's very important. What are some common causes for financial stress?
You know, I honestly, I'll give you guys a quick stat that when I read this, it was kind of like mind blowing. 57% of Americans don't have enough money saved to cover a $1,000 emergency. Okay, more than half of the U.S. doesn't have enough money saved to cover $1,000. That's crazy. Yet, if you think about it, it's not like consumer spending is down. Everybody's on Amazon. Everybody has the newest iPhone. Everybody has a car and like fancy clothes. So what does that tell you? People don't know how to live below their means. What we have in the U.S., yeah, there's different issues like politically and, you know, people not making enough money. Yeah, that's true. But if you dig a little deeper, you'll notice that people don't know how to live below their means, budget their money, how to control their spending, how to use credit cards correctly. So I think the biggest issue all around is that people just don't know how to manage their money.
Yeah, I could see those being some common causes of financial issues, and it's important for people to stay on top of their finances. And you don't have to be the most perfect, but basic budgeting, don't overspend, don't max out credit cards, don't just go on luxury vacations and dinners and all these things and realize that you're going to be underwater pretty soon thereafter.
You almost have to treat your finances like a business. Like, you have to know what you have coming in every month and what you have going out every month. It's like you have to do like basic accounting for your own finances. How much money do I make every month? How much am I spending every month? And what am I spending it on? And then that'll give you like a realistic idea of like, okay, I'm spending too much on going out to eat. Or, you know, maybe I did go on too many vacations last year, things like that. Because, you know, I think people have this idea that as long as they make more money, they'll be fine. But the problem is if you make more money and you adjust, you know, you spend more. I think Patrick Bet-David actually said this in one of his videos where he said, like, if you really want to do well financially, as you make more money, live the same lifestyle. As you make more money, live the same lifestyle. When, you know, people are hitting up to go out every weekend, stay home. And it really has a big effect in the long run, because you can't just make more money and then increase your spending, because you end up just where you began.
Well, that's the thing. People go from making, let's say, $50,000 a year to 80,000 a year or 150,000 a year. And all of a sudden, because they think that they can make that much more money, that they can spend that much more as well. So they don't end up saving
Exactly.
the same amount, or even taking that money that they saved and investing it into something that's going to give them a return, such as real estate, such as a high yield savings account, stocks, bonds, gold, silver, things like that.
Yep.
So what are some negative effects of financial stress in general on someone single, someone on their own?
Yeah, financial stress could cause a lot of anxiety, and it could really lead to depression, because the amount of stress that financial problems could cause you. I mean, we're talking about like potentially like losing your car, not being behind on your rent, not being able to afford basic life. If you're in a scenario like that, it could really have an effect on your mental health. It'll definitely have an effect on your relationships. In this podcast, we talk mostly about dating and relationships. If you're in those shoes where you're living paycheck to paycheck or you're buried in debt, you should really stop what you're doing and really focus on saving, budgeting, and you have to get your finances straight, because it's going to cause. This is something you have to attack right from the start, and don't go out spending money. Don't buy useless stuff, fancy clothes, going out to eat, things like that, because you have to get your money right as a guy.
I can go by my own experiences that at first, in my early 20s, I did not have a pot to piss in. I only had, probably after working, because I started working pretty young at about 14 years old. I was a grader at a tutoring school. I don't know if anybody has heard of Kumon, but I used to work at one of those. And I worked for the 4 years that I was in high school, worked there, then worked, typical fast food joint after that. Don't want to get into all the little details and things like that. But pretty much I saved and saved, but I ended up using that money for college, which I look back now and is a big mistake for me personally to go to college. But used all that money for that and ended up my senior year with $7 and like 20 cents in my account. Then from there, I realized, okay, I got to get my act together. Got myself a job, another side hustle. So I had 2 jobs and just kept saving. Now up to the point of where I am, and I'm in solid shape right now. I've been working for years, investing that money and saving it and not spending like an idiot. And that's very important for people to understand that if you take all that you have and just blow it, you're going to have nothing. And that's it.
Saving money is really important. I've had a few people over the years tell me like, oh, well, saving money is pointless because of inflation and blah, blah, blah. Your money's losing value. And I'm like, you don't get it. You have to have liquid cash. You have to have money in your bank, okay? You can't just spend all your money because of inflation. The reason it's important to have money is because you have the way to make it out of the rat race is you have to invest your money eventually. You have to save, like you said, especially when you're working in your 20s into your 30s. That's your opportunity to save as much as you possibly can. And now you're in a place where you can kind of partition that money and say, okay, I'm going to put some of this in real estate, or I'm going to put some of this in a high yield savings or an IRA or a 401k. And, obviously you don't want to put all your money into one investment, but you have an opportunity now to invest in multiple sources of income, but you can't do that without any money saved.
Exactly. You have to have some sort of money saved. Obviously, with inflation, with how things are in the economy nowadays, of course, you can't just save, because day by day, the dollar becomes more and more worthless.
Yes.
So, yes, you have to take the money that you save and invest it, but you have to have some money saved. They say that about 6 months savings is for as far as what you need for rent and living expenses and things like that, just in case of an emergency.
Yeah, good point. They say you should really, as an adult, have about 6 months of savings. So if you lose your job tomorrow, you have 6 months of rent, car payments, basic bills.
So it's a mistake to listen to anybody that's telling you not to save, because you have to save. However, you have to make money in order to be able to save that money. You can't just sit here saving nickels and dimes and not making, the 5s, 10s, 20s, 100s. to be able to save and to be able to invest. But what's important is the bottom line. Make money as much as you can. If you're not making enough money in one job to support yourself, get another job. Again, it's the tough pill that we have to swallow nowadays, but the economy's tough and we have to just stay afloat in this situation. So now moving forward, what negative impact does financial issues cause in a relationship?
Financial problems are one of the leading causes of relationships falling apart. It's one of the leading causes of divorces. When you're a kid, when you're in your 20s, you live in a different world, right? Your arguments with your significant other aren't going to be that serious. You argue over small things. When you become an adult, you get into serious relationships, financial problems could cause your entire relationship to fall apart. Okay? Missed rent payments, you can't afford your mortgage, you can't afford a basic, happy, healthy lifestyle, you can't afford to go on a single vacation per year because you're broke. And like we mentioned before, financial problems really causes a lot of anxiety and stress and depression for people. So that's why I think it's important as a man, you have to be like financially secure before you get into any serious commitment. Don't do it reverse where you try to like date and then figure it out later. I think as a man, you do have to be like financially secure first before you get into a serious relationship.
Well, you make a great point because some people get into a relationship and get into marriage, kids, without being ready.
Correct.
You need to have what for that? You need to have money for that. You need to be able to support the marriage and the kids. That's all important. So it's always good to have a plan. You plan everything. You plan your goals and your dreams, but you also have to plan on how you're going to spend your money, how much money you're going to make, and all those things along the way. So that's very important. I do have a stat here that nearly half of American couples experiencing financial tension admit it's had a negative impact on intimacy with their partner. So
yeah,
we're talking about sex pretty much.
Yeah.
How would you say that can cause a relationship to break apart? Is it mostly the money factor? Is it the money affecting the intimacy? Like you can't really focus on being intimate with one another because of the money?
Women have to feel secure in a relationship. If your finances aren't straight, it's going to be like a snowball effect. It's just going to be like one problem that leads to another to another. If your woman is unhappy, you guys are like broke, in debt, she's going to be unhappy. When women are unhappy, they're not going to be intimate with you. She's not going to sleep with you. Chances are you're going to be arguing all the time, which is going to just make things worse. And that's how relationships fall apart. So I think it's just like a snowball effect. Like financial problems, I think for most people is like the beginning of the end. If you don't have your finances straight, you're not going to have a happy lifestyle or a relationship.
I can see a couple watching a movie and finances aren't doing too great, and he tries to like hold her hand or something, and she just like pushes him away. And
she's going to be drier than the Sahara if you have no money.
She's angry as hell, and obviously she may not be saying it in the moment, but she definitely feels it for sure. Now, getting to that point, can financial problems completely destroy a relationship?
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of our episodes we talk about like the gold diggers and stuff like that. But even with that aside, just a healthy, normal relationship with a normal woman, she's not going to be happy in a relationship with a broke guy. I think nowadays that's like square one. Like you can't be broke nowadays. You can't even, honestly, you can't even get away with being average nowadays. Never mind broke.
Yeah, I mean, here I have stats that pretty much answer that question. There's a study that 1/4 of couples break up over finances. Happens more for ages 35 to 49 years old, with 30% of couples breaking up and 28% of couples breaking up from ages 25 to 34 due to money issues. Also, an inability to share and solve money difficulties may indicate underlying problems in the bond between partners. According to 2022 survey, so this is just about a year and a half, I'm sure it's going to be even more now. 65% of American adults said that money is a source of stress. Money is a significant source of conflict in 55% of American households. So, ladies and gentlemen, when they say it's about the money, it's really about the money. And to add on to that, financial problems contribute to 20 to 40% of all divorces.
Yeah.
So there you have
There
it.
you go.
I mean, breakups, divorces, money could be not just the root of those issues, but of course the root of all evil, as they say, right?
Yeah.
Is it worth dealing with someone that has financial trouble? Let's say there's a couple. The woman in the relationship is doing great with her finances. She's a boss babe. She has her job. She's off the charts with her money. She may be a millionaire. Who knows? And the guy is working 9 to 5, maybe making 60, 70K max a year, not making as much as her, maybe struggling to get by, or vice versa. Maybe the guy is kicking ass in his career, in his hustles, in his businesses, and she works at Starbucks making 20 an hour, or she works at a bar part-time as a bartender.
You know, it's two different scenarios. I'll tell you, women, I don't believe women can respect and date a guy that makes less than them, especially if he makes much less. Women have to, like, especially nowadays, women have to date a guy that makes at least what she makes or more. And realistically, it's going to be more. Women aren't going to respect you if you make less than them. And if you ever even get into a relationship with a woman that makes way more than you, you'll see what's going to happen down the line. She's going to talk down to you. She's going to treat you like a kid. Like she's just not going to have respect for you. That's 100%. Now on the flip side, men don't really care about finances to that extent. Men will absolutely date a woman that maybe has like an entry-level job, or maybe she's temporarily unemployed. It's not important to us because we're not expecting the woman to pay for everything and cover everything to begin with. And let's just say she does have a good job. Realistically, is she going to be paying everything? No, she's going to expect the man to pay it anyway. So it's like, what is it saying? Like when a man works, it's my money is our money, and your money is your money.
Pretty much. And I can attest to that. I see women that they don't respect their guy when they make less than them.
Yeah.
They want a guy at least making the same amount or more. I'm sure many of you guys have heard that before. That's very important. Very important because that'll keep the relationship where women expect it to be. Women, they say now, we're hearing it more and more now. We want to have a guy to be masculine so we can bring out our feminine side. Even though women like to go ahead and make money and be a boss babe and do all this crazy stuff, such as OnlyFans. So it goes to show that if you play your cards right, as far as a guy making enough money, making more money, you can secure a woman that'll want to be in a relationship with you. Now, for women to not make money or not make enough money, again, a masculine guy is going to be okay with picking you up and saying, okay, I've got you with the finances. I'm going to get out there and make the money, and you take care of things when I'm away from home. And then when I get back home, help me out, cook me some food, make sure you're intimately available, and make sure you bring me peace. You're submissive, and you don't give me a hard time for basic stuff. You're my partner in crime.
Men, for the most part, will not break up with a woman because she doesn't have money. That is not an expectation on our part. It's not a deal breaker at all. I'll tell you what is a deal breaker. There are women that just have major shopping and spending addictions. They max out credit cards. I'm not expecting a woman to make money and to pay bills. But if I see this, she's a shopaholic and she just cannot control spending. She wants luxury items and always wants to buy new furniture and expects more. If she has a spending problem, you have to be able to kind of like read that from square one and like ask yourself, am I getting into a serious commitment with a woman like that? Because that problem is, I promise you, is not going away down the line.
Well, that's a woman that's abusing a guy financially. You're taking advantage of the guy. Okay, maybe he makes a good amount of money. That doesn't give you the right to go out and max all his credit cards and buy stupid nonsense just to have in your closet, let's say some purses or some fancy shoes. But of course, guy's going to take care of you, and you should be able to go out and buy some things once in a while. But mostly, it should focus on being a team where you're both progressing in the right direction, and not someone doing one thing and the other person doing something else, because that's how relationships fall apart.
Since I mentioned, I just thought of this now. I mentioned Patrick Bet-David before. This is an ultra successful millionaire guy. A lot of people look up to him and respect him. He said this on a podcast about his own marriage. Somebody asked him, like, how do you guys manage your money? Like, aren't you concerned that she's going to, like, spend your money, or, like, you're going to get divorced and she'll take your money? This was his answer. He said, look, I told my wife, I have an account for my money. I'm going to create you your own account and put money in there, and that's your money. I'm not going to tell you how to spend it. That is entirely up to you. But if you spend it all, that's it. There's not going to be any more. And that's it. And he gave her own account. He puts money in there for her every month, and it's entirely up to her how to spend it. But what he's not going to do, because he's smart, is he's not going to create a joint account and give her a card and say, here, have fun. And then they're going to go to Target or the mall or buy themselves, Birkin bags and drain all your money. Because women in general, for the most part, a lot of them do have spending problems. The biggest shopaholics are women. Guys, we rotate the same pair of jeans, you right? So
see, the thing is that why wouldn't they? If they're being given an opportunity, here you go. Here's money, here's credit cards, do what you want with it. They're gonna go and say, okay, and then they're gonna buy all this stupid bullshit. It doesn't make sense. So at the end of the day, I love PBD. He's great. He has a plan right there. And that's what guys should have, is set up a plan where if you're in a relationship, you're budgeting correctly, not overspending, and you're not necessarily too controlling, because obviously ladies always say, well, not always, but they'll say that some guys are too controlling and things like that. So just stay on top of the finances so it doesn't get out of hand, and so you don't both go broke, or she doesn't leave you as the guy broke, because that's the worst thing that can happen there. So always have a plan. Now, as far as splitting finances 50-50, do you think that's fair if one partner is struggling and the other isn't? Let's say a woman is struggling and the guy isn't. Should it be, or vice versa?
Should you, in other words, or you're saying in a serious commitment, or is the man and the woman splitting the bills 50-50, the overall expenses?
Right.
I don't think
more or less for a man and a woman to split it if the guy's struggling.
If the guy's struggling, yeah. I mean, I think generally speaking, the financial pressure is always going to be on the man, right? The man's going to be expected to pay all the bills. However, if you're in a serious commitment and the guy loses his job or goes through some rough patch, I think I would expect a woman to temporarily jump in and help out, or even if you're married and like the man's going to pay a majority of the bills, cover something, just so that it's not like the man paying for everything and the woman taking him for a ride, because that can very easily happen. I think a woman, especially a wife, I would hope she's going to be there to cover you financially if needed.
It makes sense for them to split if there's troubles that, hey, troubles, sometimes you can't help it. Things happen in life. Someone loses a job. So it's great if she's able to contribute and at least meet halfway, 50-50. The guy has some emergency funds. That's huge. Obviously, if it's the other way around, typically the guy is going to be okay with taking care of her. Now, that's a great way to avoid these breakups and these divorces, because if you really care about each other in a relationship or in a marriage, if you truly care about each other and it's just not just about the money, then you'll figure out a way to make it work, right? A way to not just survive, have the relationship survive, but eventually thrive later on because you guys made it through the rough patches. That's very important.
Yep.
So the final cherry on top of this whole situation here, how do you best go about creating a plan for couples to avoid breaking up over financial issues?
If it's getting to the point where you're considering serious commitment, meaning you plan on moving in together or you plan on getting engaged, married, buying a house, once like it's the commitment is serious, I think you have to sit down and discuss finances, and it's not going to be like a one and done conversation. I think you have to really discuss it together. What are your goals? What budget are you going to stick to? What are you going to spend money on? Like how much are we going to pay for rent? How much are we willing to spend monthly on our expenses? You have to discuss that and make sure you guys are at least on the same page ahead of time and not just kind of wing it, because if it turns out later that she expects to buy this expensive of a house and this type of a car and she expects to go on this many amount of vacations a year, things can get out of control. So I think it's very important to sit down and kind of like get to the bottom of how you're going to manage your money and have that. And I think if you have that discussion often, even better.
Yeah, I mean, you have to talk about it. You have to communicate. Communication's key with everything, especially before getting into a serious relationship or marriage. It should be discussed well in depth how you're going to go about your finances, because, hey, people don't really necessarily go too deep into it, and that's where things fall apart. So at the end of the day, you can keep things together within a relationship if you just work it out and partner up and say, hey, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to handle it. So we can avoid the divorce or we can avoid the breakup. I mean, think about it. You don't get into a relationship with someone or a marriage with somebody to expect to get divorced later on or to break up. They always say, well, it's going to be forever and ever, right? But, 50% of divorces, 50 to 60% of divorces don't really say that it's forever and ever. You eventually have a relationship or a marriage that falls apart.
I think most financial problems, you can prevent them if you get ahead of it and see it coming ahead of time. I think where people get themselves into really deep trouble financially is when they let it get too out of hand. They bury themselves in debt, loans, credit card debt, and then it's really tough to get out.
Exactly. You'll have too many arguments, too much fighting, increased tension within the relationship. You'll have a hard time if you don't keep it together when it comes to finances, when you don't talk about it and when you don't go about things with the expectation of, okay, well, how is the guy going to react to how the woman is going about the finances or vice versa. Everybody has to be on the same page to avoid those issues. So many issues that come along with it. Why let it get to that point? Why not nip it in the bud right there before it becomes an issue? So always prevent the situation, avoid the situation as best you can. And hey, you may have a thriving relationship just off of that, a thriving marriage just off of that.
100%. You're better off duking it out and saving your marriage or your relationship than getting divorced later because you're broke. Thank you guys for watching today. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. We are almost at 1,000 followers. We appreciate you.
Thanks, guys. Follow, subscribe, and follow our Instagram, the Podcast Guys _, and TikTok, the Podcast Guys _. We'll see you next time. Peace.